Hello everyone. Tonight, we're going back to a time with no heating, no insulation, and no escape from the cold. A time when winter didn't last days or weeks, but months. And when night fell, medieval peasants slept in wooden huts where frost crept across the walls. Wind slipped through every crack, and the only warmth came from a single dying fire. So how did they survive the coldest winters of the Middle Ages? Without fireplaces, radiators, or thick bedding? The answer isn't what you might expect. They didn't fight the cold. They settled into it. They slept close. They stayed still. And they let warmth build slowly, one breath at a time. As you listen tonight, you'll step inside those quiet wooden huts. Feel the fire glow low and experience how patience, routine, and stillness carried families safely through the longest nights of winter. You've made it through the day. The cold is outside now. And here, you can rest. The first cold wind moves across the fields in a long, shallow breath. It slips between timber houses, brushes past stone walls, and disappears into the forest beyond the village. You feel it before you truly notice it. A thin edge of cold against your skin, sharper than the days before. Daylight has already begun to shrink. Each afternoon ends a little earlier than the last. The sky dims sooner, and the sun lowers itself behind bare trees, while there is still work unfinished. Shadows stretch across the ground, long before you are ready for them. The hours of light feel fragile now, something to be used carefully. Frost begins to appear in the mornings. At first, it is light. A pale dusting across the fields, a thin white film clinging to grass and wooden fences. You notice it when you step outside at dawn and see the ground sparkling faintly, as if the earth itself has gone still. Your breath fogs in front of you, rising and disappearing just as quietly. The forests change next. Leaves fall away completely, leaving branches exposed and motionless. Paths through the woods feel wider now, emptier. Sound carries differently. The land feels open, but also quieter, as though it is holding something back. You do not need anyone to tell you what is coming. You have lived through this before. Winter, in the Middle Ages, does not rush in all at once. It arrives in signs, in silences, in the way the village begins to move differently without anyone agreeing to it. People walk more slowly now. Conversations grow shorter. Doors close earlier in the evening. Tools are set down sooner, not because the work is finished, but because the cold makes it harder to continue. You notice how everyone watches the sky. Clouds gather more often, thick and low, blocking what little warmth the sun still offers. When snow comes for the first time, it is light, almost gentle, but it stays. It does not melt away by morning. It lingers in shaded places, clinging to the ground as a quiet promise. Winter has started to claim its space. Inside the village, small adjustments begin. Firewood stacks are checked and rearranged. Cloaks are pulled tighter. Wool layers are added, one by one, without comment. Food is handled more carefully now. Portions measured not by hunger, but by time. There is no fear in these movements, only memory. You understand what this season means, not because someone has warned you, but because the land has already begun to show you. Nights grow colder first. When darkness settles, it feels heavier than before. The air inside wooden huts cools quickly once the fire burns low. Walls that once felt sturdy now seem thin. You listen more closely at night, to the wind outside, to the faint sounds of movement in nearby homes, to the quiet crackle of embers holding on. You sleep differently now. not deeply, not yet. Your body remains aware, adjusting itself to the long months ahead. You pull blankets closer. You shift nearer to the fire. You wake more easily when the wind changes direction. And still, there is a calm to this moment. Winter has not yet taken its full shape. It is only arriving, laying its first marks across the land, reminding everyone to slow down. You feel the world narrowing. Life begins to turn inward. Less time is spent outside, less movement, less noise. The village itself seems to shrink as people retreat into familiar spaces, closer to warmth, closer to one another. There is comfort in this narrowing. You have made it through the day. The cold is still mostly outside. The fire still holds. The night, though longer now, has not yet become harsh. From now, there is nothing to do but notice the change and prepare to rest. Winter has arrived quietly, and you are already inside it. Winter does not pass through the village. It settles. At first, you expect the snow to melt the way it sometimes has before. A brief visit, a reminder, a pause in the year. But this time, it stays. Each morning you wake to find the ground still white, the paths still buried, the roof still heavy with frost. Snow returns again and again. It falls lightly some days, thickly on others, but always with the same quiet patience. There is no drama in it, no warning. It simply arrives, coats everything and waits. You stop counting how many times it has fallen. The land remembers for you. The village begins to sound different. Footsteps soften. Voices carry less. Even the animals move with caution now, conserving energy the way everyone else has learned to do. The usual noises of daily life fade, replaced by long stretches of stillness, broken only by wind moving through bare branches. Doors close earlier. Fires are lit sooner in the day and allowed to burn longer into the night. People linger near the hearth instead of wandering from place to place. There is less reason to move when warmth is precious and distance offers nothing but cold. You feel the village pulling inward. Homes become smaller worlds. The outside grows unfamiliar, not because it has changed, but because you visit it less. Snow reshapes familiar paths until they all look the same, pale, smooth, endless. Supplies begin to feel different in your hands. Food is still there, but it is no longer abundant. You notice how often it is counted, divided, measured. Bread is cut carefully. Stew is stretched thin. Nothing is wasted, not because anyone says so, but because winter has made waste unthinkable. Firewood becomes precious. Each log is placed on the fire with intention. You listen to the sound it makes as it catches, as if that sound itself matters. Embers are guarded. Ash is cleared slowly. Even the act of warming your hands feels deliberate, careful not to take more heat than necessary. The cold presses closer. It slips through cracks in wooden walls. It settles near the floor. It creeps along the edges of the room when the fire dims. You learn where to sit, where to sleep, where warmth gathers and where it disappears first. At night, the silence deepens. Snow muffles everything outside. The wind loses its sharpness, replaced by a heavy stillness that feels almost thick enough to touch. Inside, breathing sounds louder. The fire's crackle feels intimate, personal, like a companion staying awake with you. You begin to understand something quietly. This winter is not leaving soon. There is no single moment when this realization arrives. It grows slowly, the way the cold itself has grown. In the way supplies last just long enough to make you cautious. In the way the days blur together. In the way no one talks about spring anymore. Time stretches. Days follow the same pattern, each one beginning cold and ending colder. You wake, tend the fire, eat sparingly, sit close to warmth, and wait for night. Then you do it again. And again. The world outside becomes something you endure rather than inhabit. You stop looking for signs that winter might loosen its grip. Instead, you begin to settle into it, the way you settle into a long night when you know sleep will come eventually, but not yet. The village grows quieter still, not because people are afraid, but because energy is conserved. Words are saved. Movements are slower. Everything unnecessary fades away, leaving only what keeps you warm and alive. There is a strange calm in this. Winter has taken control of the pace of life, and in doing so, it has removed the need for urgency. There is nowhere to go, nothing to rush toward. The season has decided for you. You sit closer to the fire. You sleep closer to one another. You listen more carefully to the sounds inside the hut, and less to the world beyond the walls. And somewhere, in this quiet, heavy stillness, you make a decision without ever naming it. You stop waiting for winter to end. You accept that it will be here for a long time. From this moment on, survival is not about enduring a storm. It is about living inside the cold, slowly, patiently, together. The season has claimed its place, and you are fully within it now. You learn the shape of the hut by living inside it. It is smaller than memory makes it, smaller than comfort would allow. The walls are rough timber, cut and stacked without precision, darkened by years of smoke and weather. The wood smells of earth and fire, soaked through with winters long past. When you rest your hand against it, the cold lingers there, never fully chased away. The ceiling hangs low. You cannot stand straight in every part of the hut. The beams press downward, forcing you to move slowly, deliberately. Tall spaces waste heat. Low spaces hold it. Every part of the hut is shaped by that simple truth. The floor beneath your feet is not wood. It is packed earth, hard and uneven, worn smooth where feet have passed again and again. In winter, it is always cold. Even near the fire, the chill rises upward, settling into bones if you remain still too long. Straw is scattered across it in places, pressed flat where people sleep or sit, replaced when it becomes too damp or worn. Light is scarce. A single opening in the wall serves as a window, small and narrow, covered with a simple shutter or cloth. When daylight fades, which it does early, the hut grows dim quickly. Firelight becomes the only source of brightness, flickering across the walls and pulling shadows into long, slow movement. You come to know those shadows well. They stretch and shrink as the fire breathes. They gather in corners. They move across familiar shapes, tools hanging from pegs, bundles of herbs drying overhead, cloaks resting against the wall. Nothing is hidden, but nothing is fully illuminated either. Space is shared. There are no separate rooms, no private corners. Everything happens within this single enclosure. Eating, resting, sleeping, waiting. The hut is not meant to impress or comfort. It is meant to hold life together long enough for the season to pass. Furnishings are few. A rough bench near the fire. A low table, scarred by years of use. Wooden bowls stacked carefully when not in use. Every object serves a purpose. Nothing exists without reason. If it does not keep you warm, fed, or alive, it does not belong here. Smoke lingers. It rises from the hearth and drifts upward, escaping slowly through gaps in the roof or a small opening above the fire. The air is never entirely clear. Your eyes adjust. Your lungs learn. The smell of smoke becomes part of the hut, part of you. You move carefully. Every step is measured. You avoid sudden movements that might disturb the fire or waste warmth. Even gestures become smaller in winter. Everything unnecessary is trimmed away, leaving only what matters. Sound behaves differently here. The walls absorb it. Snow outside muffles it. Voices stay low, not out of fear, but because the hut holds quiet, naturally. Loudness feels out of place. Silence feels earned. Time slows. Without light to mark the hours clearly, the day stretches and compresses. You wake when the fire needs tending. You eat when hunger insists. You sleep when darkness settles completely, and there is nothing left to do but rest. The hut becomes the entire world. The outside exists only as a presence pressing against the walls, cold, distant, patient. Inside, warmth gathers where people gather. Bodies create heat. Stillness preserves it. You begin to understand the rhythm, sit close to the fire, move only when needed, share space, share warmth. This is not a place of comfort, but it is a place of survival. And in winter, that is enough. The cold is never fully outside. It slips in quietly, without announcement, through the smallest places, through seams where wood meets wood, through gaps formed as the hut settles and shifts with time. You do not feel it all at once. It arrives slowly, brushing past ankles, creeping along the floor, resting against the skin until it becomes familiar. The wind finds every weakness. On still days, the hut feels steady. On windy nights, you hear it before you feel it. A low sound pressing against the walls, testing them. The air moves where it should not. A faint draft brushes your face. A corner of the hut grows colder than the rest. You adjust without thinking, turning slightly, drawing closer to the fire, pulling fabric tighter around yourself. There is no insulation to stop it, no hidden layers, no barriers beyond timber, earth, and patience. The walls slow the cold, but they do not block it. They buy time. That is all. And in winter, time matters. Smoke escapes as best it can. It drifts upward, seeking the roof opening, slipping through cracks between beams. Some of it lingers, curling back into the room. Some of it leaves entirely, taking warmth with it. You learn to accept the trade. Clear air would mean more heat lost. Smoke, unpleasant as it is, becomes a sign that the fire still lives. The fire is never allowed to roar. A roaring fire burns fuel too quickly. Wood is precious. Every log must last. Flames are kept low, steady, controlled. Embers are guarded like something alive. They are fed carefully, never rushed. Too much heat wastes fuel. Too little invites danger. There is no true heating here, only the slow sharing of warmth. Heat rises from the fire and gathers near the ceiling, then settles gently downward. Bodies trap it. Stillness keeps it close. Movement lets it escape. You learn this without being taught. You stop pacing. You sit longer. You rest more. The cold teaches you economy. Every task takes more effort in winter. Fingers stiffen. Breath thickens. Even simple movements require attention. Outside, the cold drains strength quickly. Inside, it waits patiently, pressing inward from all sides. Winter is not dramatic. It does not arrive like a sudden storm and then pass. It stays, day after day, night after night. It stretches time thin, asking the same question again and again. Will you last? Food grows scarce. Supplies shrink slowly, almost politely. Bread is cut thinner. Meals are simpler. No one complains. Hunger is expected. It becomes another quiet presence, like the cold, managed rather than fought. Light disappears early. Darkness settles before work feels finished. Candles are used sparingly. Firelight must be enough. Shadows lengthen. The hut grows smaller. The world narrows. And this is why winter is the greatest threat. Not because it is violent, not because it is sudden, but because it asks for endurance. It asks you to hold on, to move less, to wait longer, to trust that stillness is strength. You do not battle the cold. You live beside it. And as long as the fire breathes softly, as long as the walls stand, and as long as bodies remain close together, you endure. Quietly, patiently, one long night at a time. The fire is already there when you wake. It does not blaze. It does not demand attention. It rests quietly in the hearth, glowing softly beneath a thin layer of ash. The embers breathe slowly, like something alive but content. Their warmth reaches you before the light does, touching your skin gently, reminding you that the night has not taken everything. Everything in the hut turns toward the fire. The walls lean inward, catching its glow. The ceiling hangs low above it, holding warmth close instead of letting it escape. The floor, packed hard with earth, absorbs heat during the day and releases it back slowly when the fire dims. Even the air seems shaped by the hearth, warmer near the center, cooler at the edges. This is not accidental. The hut was built around this place. The hearth is not an addition. It is the beginning. The rest of the home exists only to protect it. You sit closer without thinking. Everyone does. The fire draws you in, quietly, steadily. Not just for warmth, but for reassurance. As long as it burns, life continues. As long as it glows, the cold remains manageable. You learn to read it the way others read the sky. A bright flame means the wood is fresh. A low flame means fuel must be added soon. Embers glowing deep red tell you the fire will last a while longer. Pale embers warn that the heat is fading. You notice these things instinctively, the way you notice breathing or blinking. Fire is never wasted. Wood is gathered carefully. Every piece matters. Logs are split to burn evenly. Kindling is saved for moments when the fire struggles. Larger pieces are reserved for the longest nights. Nothing is thrown in without thought. The fire is fed slowly. Too much wood burns too fast. Too little lets the cold creep back in. Balance is everything. You place each piece gently, listening as it settles, watching how the flames respond. The fire speaks in small ways, a crackle, a sigh, a soft shift of embers. Light comes from the fire first. Candles are precious. Oil is limited. Firelight is free, as long as the fire lives. It flickers across faces, softening lines, blurring the hard edges of winter. Shadows move gently along the walls, never still, never sharp. The fire makes time feel slower. Moments stretch as you watch the flames curl and retreat. Thoughts soften. Worries lose their sharpness. The cold outside feels distant, less urgent, less threatening. Food is prepared here. An iron pot hangs above the flames, suspended just high enough to avoid boiling too fast. Inside, something simple simmers. Broth, grain, perhaps a bit of root or preserved meat. Steam rises slowly, carrying warmth and scent through the hut. Meals are not rushed. They cannot be. Eating happens close to the fire. Bowls are held near the warmth. Hands hover above the embers before lifting food to the mouth. Every bite feels heavier, more important, as though the fire itself is part of the meal. The fire gives shape to the day. Morning begins when embers are stirred back to life. Evening arrives when flames are allowed to shrink. Night settles when the fire is reduced to its quietest glow. There are no clocks. The fire is time. Conversation stays close to it. Voices are low. Words are fewer. Sound carries differently in winter, and silence is not uncomfortable here. It is expected. The fire fills the space where noise might otherwise be. You listen to it more than you speak. Its rhythm becomes familiar. Crackle, pause, shift, a soft collapse of ash. Each sound confirms that warmth remains. The fire is watched constantly, not anxiously, attentively. Someone is always aware of it. How strong it is, how long it will last, whether it needs care. Even when eyes are closed, part of you listens for changes. This watching is comforting. It gives purpose to stillness. It turns waiting into something active, something meaningful. As the hours pass, the fire gathers everyone inward. Bodies draw closer. Blankets are adjusted. Movements slow. No one strays far from the hearth. There is no reason to. Outside, winter presses on the walls. You know it is there. The snow, the wind, the dark. But the fire pushes back in its own way, not with force, but with persistence. It does not try to defeat the cold. It simply refuses to disappear. And that is enough. The flickering light reflects in tired eyes. Faces soften. Breathing slows. The hut feels smaller, safer, held together by warmth and quiet. As long as the fire remains, you are not alone with the winter. You are gathered. You are sheltered. You are safe enough. And for now, that is everything. By now, you understand that the fire is not something you simply light and forget. It must be guarded, not fiercely, not anxiously, but with steady attention that never fully leaves it, even when your body grows tired. Firewood is counted long before it is used. Each piece has weight, not just in the hands, but in the mind. You know how many remain. You know how long they must last. You know which pieces burn fast and which hold longer. Nothing is chosen without thought. The largest logs are saved. They are leaned carefully against the wall, out of the damp, close enough to warm, but never close enough to dry too quickly. These are for the longest nights, when sleep must stretch for hours, and the fire cannot be fed constantly. Smaller pieces are stacked neatly nearby. These are for tending, for adjusting, for keeping the fire alive without letting it grow wild. The fire must never blaze too high. A roaring fire eats wood too quickly and gives nothing back in return. You have learned patience from the flame. Wood is added slowly, one piece at a time. You wait to see how it settles, how the embers respond, how the heat spreads through the hut. You listen. You always listen. A sharp crack tells you the wood was too dry. A dull hiss means moisture remains. A low sigh tells you the fire is content. You respond accordingly. Evenings stretch long in winter. The light fades early, and darkness presses in before your body feels ready for rest. These are the hours when guarding the flame becomes most important. The fire must be strong enough to hold through the night, but not so strong that it burns itself out too soon. You sit close, not directly against it, but near enough to feel its warmth on your knees, your hands, your chest. Your eyes follow the flames as they curl and withdraw. You learn their habits. You know when they need help and when they should be left alone. Time slows here. Minutes stretch into something softer. The fire does not rush, and neither do you. There is nothing to hurry toward. Winter has taken away urgency and replaced it with endurance. When the fire begins to settle lower, you act. Ash is shifted gently. Embers are nudged closer together. A small piece of wood is added, angled carefully so it catches slowly rather than all at once. You watch as orange glows deepen and spread, like warmth breathing outward. The goal is always the same, not brightness, not heat alone, but longevity. The fire must last. As night deepens, movement in the hut becomes minimal. Bodies settle into blankets. Breathing grows slower. Words fade away. Still, the fire is never ignored. Someone remains aware. Sometimes it is you. You stay awake just a little longer than the others, listening to the rhythm of the hut. The soft sound of breathing. The faint whisper of wind outside. The occasional shift of timber as cold presses against the walls. And always, the fire. You learn how to prepare it for sleep. A final log is placed carefully, not flat, but angled, so air can still reach the embers beneath. Ash is pulled inward, insulating the coals, while allowing them to breathe. Flames rise briefly, then settle, then sink into a steady glow. This is the most important moment. If done poorly, the fire will die too soon. If done carelessly, it may burn too fast. You wait. You watch the embers glow evenly. You wait until the flame no longer leaps, but rests. Only then do you allow yourself to move away. Even when you lie down, part of you remains with the fire. Your body rests, but your awareness stays half awake. A change in sound will pull you back. A shift in warmth will register immediately. You sleep lightly, ready to rise if needed. This is not exhaustion, it is habit. Winter teaches this kind of vigilance gently, through repetition rather than fear. Night after night, you learn how much attention is enough, how little movement is required, how to trust the fire without abandoning it. Sometimes you wake before the fire asks for help. You sense the cooling air before it becomes uncomfortable. You rise quietly, careful not to disturb others. The floor is cold beneath your feet, but you move slowly, deliberately. A small piece of wood is enough. You place it gently. You wait. The embers respond, glowing brighter, spreading warmth outward again. The hut breathes easier. So do you. The fire never feels like a burden. It feels like a companion. It listens. It responds. It rewards patience and punishes carelessness, but never cruelly, always predictably, always honestly. By morning, the fire is reduced to embers again, but they are still alive. They glow faintly beneath ash, waiting for breath, waiting for care. You stir them gently, coaxing them back into flame without starting anew. This saves wood. This saves effort. This saves life. Starting a fire from nothing in winter is costly. You understand now that guarding the flame is not a task. Food in winter is no longer something you look forward to. It is something you return to. Each day, it arrives quietly, without ceremony, shaped by habit rather than hunger. The meals are simple because simplicity lasts. Anything complicated would demand too much fuel, too much effort, too much attention. Bread is always there, dark, dense, baked weeks ago and stored carefully, wrapped in cloth to keep it from drying too fast or molding too quickly. You break it slowly, not tearing, not rushing. The sound it makes matters. Too hard means it has gone stale. Too soft means moisture has crept in. You learn to listen even to food. Broth warms more than it fills. It is thin, stretched, made from bones used again and again until they give almost nothing more. Still, it carries heat. Steam rises gently from the bowl, fogging the air between your face and the fire. You wait before sipping. Burning your mouth wastes the moment. You drink slowly. Each swallow spreads warmth outward, not just through your chest, but into your hands, your fingers, your feet. The heat does not last long, but it does not need to. It only needs to be enough. Preserved foods appear carefully. Salted meat, sliced thin so it lasts longer. Dried roots softened in water. A few beans, measured, counted, return to their place when not used. Nothing is eaten thoughtlessly. Every portion carries memory of how long winter still has to go. You do not eat until you are full. You eat until you are steady. Meals follow the same order each day. Fire tended first. Food prepared slowly. Bowls set where they have always been set. There is comfort in this sameness. It keeps time when the sun no longer does. It tells you what part of the day it is without looking outside. Morning food is quiet. Evening food is quieter still. Eating becomes slower as winter deepens. Chewing takes longer. Pauses stretch between bites. Conversation fades until it becomes unnecessary. Words burn energy, and energy must be saved. Silence is not emptiness here. It is conservation. You sit close while you eat, not for closeness alone, but because warmth gathers where bodies are near. Bowls are passed carefully, never spilled. A dropped meal cannot be replaced. You hold each one with both hands, feeling its warmth seep into your palms. Sometimes hunger lingers. You feel it as a dull presence, not sharp, not urgent. You learn not to answer it immediately. Hunger becomes part of the background, like cold. It reminds you to move slowly, to think ahead, to wait. Waiting becomes a skill. You wait between bites. You wait between meals. You wait between days. Supplies are checked often, not anxiously, but regularly. You know exactly how much remains, how many loaves, how many dried vegetables, how much grain. Nothing surprises you, because surprise wastes time. Winter rewards predictability. Even the act of eating becomes measured. You notice how food tastes more deeply now. Without excess, flavors become clearer. Smoke clings to everything. Bread tastes faintly of ash. Broth tastes of firewood as much as bone. It is not unpleasant. It is honest. After eating, bowls are cleaned carefully. Not because they are dirty, but because food left behind invites waste. Scraps are saved. Liquids are poured back into pots. Even crumbs are gathered and returned to storage. Nothing leaves the circle of use. Routine wraps around these meals. Fire, food, rest, over and over again. Days blur together, but meals anchor them. They mark time without clocks. They give the body something to expect. Expectation becomes comfort. You notice how eating makes you slower afterward. Not heavy, but calm. Warmth spreads and settles. Movements become deliberate. Hands rest longer. Eyes linger on the fire. This is when endurance takes root. Not through effort, but through repetition. The same meal eaten again becomes reassurance. It means yesterday was survived. It means today will be as well. Tomorrow, if it comes, will look much the same. There is no excitement in this, and that is why it works. Winter does not demand strength. It demands consistency. The body learns to live on little because little is reliable. Big meals cannot be sustained. Small ones can. When night approaches, food becomes lighter. The fire is prepared instead. Eating too much before sleep wastes warmth. You learn this quickly. A small portion is enough. Hunger at night keeps the body alert. It prevents deep cold from settling too far inside. Everything has a reason, even hunger. As winter stretches on, food becomes memory as much as nourishment. Each meal reminds you of other winters, other days, other fires. It tells you that this rhythm has worked before, and because it has worked before, you trust it now. You do not rush the season. You move with it. You eat. You wait. You endure. And somehow, quietly, that is enough. Hunger does not arrive suddenly. It settles in. At first, it feels like a small absence, something barely noticed beneath the cold. Then it becomes familiar. It walks beside you through the day, never loud, never sharp, just present. You wake with it. You carry it while you work. You sit with it by the fire at night. It becomes part of you. In winter, hunger is not an emergency. It is a condition. One that teaches you how to move through time more slowly, how to pause, how to wait without fear. You learn quickly that answering hunger immediately is not always wise. Food must last longer than desire. Wanting and needing separate themselves, and patience fills the space between them. You wait before eating. You wait between meals. You wait even while food is in front of you. Waiting becomes a skill you practice without realizing it. When the bowl is set before you, you do not reach for it at once. You let the steam rise. You let the warmth reach your face first. The fire crackles softly nearby, reminding you that heat, like food, must be respected. You eat slowly, because eating slowly makes less feel like more. Each bite lasts longer. Each swallow counts. Hunger sharpens attention. You notice textures now, the rough edge of bread against your fingers, the thinness of broth, the way warmth spreads outward from your stomach and then fades again. You do not chase that warmth. You let it come and go. There are moments when hunger presses harder, late at night, early in the morning, during long stretches when the fire must be kept low. In those moments, you learn another kind of patience, the kind that does not resist discomfort, but accepts it. Hunger is not something to fight. Fighting wastes energy. Hunger is something to live alongside. You sit closer to others then, not because you are afraid, but because closeness eases the feeling. Bodies near one another share warmth, and warmth dulls hunger's edge. The presence of others reminds you that you are not alone in this waiting. Food is shared carefully, not divided evenly by hunger, but by need. Children eat first. Those who worked hardest that day receive a little more. No one argues. There is no resentment. Winter leaves little room for it. Sharing becomes instinct. When food is scarce, generosity does not disappear. It becomes quieter, a smaller piece, offered without comment. A bowl passed back without finishing it. A pause that lets someone else take the last bite. You learn to read these moments. They are not sacrifices. They are survival. Routine holds everything together. Meals come at the same times each day, even when portions shrink, especially when portions shrink. Routine tells the body what to expect. It calms the mind. It prevents panic from taking root. You know when you will eat next. You know what it will be. You know how much there will be. Certainty replaces abundance. And certainty is enough. Hunger changes how you think about time. Days feel longer, but also simpler. You stop counting hours and start counting meals. One bowl becomes a marker. 2 meals mean the day is nearly done. 3 mean you have been fortunate. Winter teaches you to measure life differently. You notice how hunger quiets the mind. Without excess, thoughts slow. There is less imagining of what could be, more acceptance of what is. The world becomes smaller, and in that smallness, it becomes manageable. You do not dream of feasts. You dream of warmth, of stillness, of sleep. Patience grows out of repetition. Each day you practice it without effort. You wake hungry, you wait, you eat a little, you wait again. And the waiting becomes easier because it is familiar. The body adapts. Hunger dulls from an ache into a background presence. It no longer demands attention. It simply exists, like the cold beyond the walls. Something you acknowledge without reacting to. This is endurance, not dramatic, not heroic, quiet and constant. You notice that hunger makes moments of warmth more powerful. A sip of broth feels like comfort. A piece of bread feels grounding. The fire feels like a promise. Nothing is wasted on excess emotion. Even gratitude is quiet. There are nights when food runs especially low. On those nights, patience becomes stillness. You move less, you speak less, you sit close and let the fire do what it can. Hunger sharpens the senses, but it also encourages rest. Rest preserves energy. Energy preserves life. You lie down with hunger beside you. It does not prevent sleep. It becomes part of it. Your body learns to rest even when it wants more. Breathing slows, muscles loosen. Hunger fades into the background as the fire's glow fills the dark. Sleep arrives gently, not because you are full, but because you are calm. Winter does not reward urgency, it rewards patience. And night after night, you practice it. You share. You wait. You endure. Evening does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, slipping into the hut as the light fades without ceremony. One moment the fire is enough to keep the space bright, and the next it becomes the only light that matters. You notice it first in the shadows. They stretch longer across the wooden walls, climbing the rough grain of the timber. Corners deepen, shapes soften. The world inside the hut begins to feel smaller, closer, more contained. The day loosens its grip, movements slow without instruction. No one says it is time to rest, but everyone feels it. The body knows when the light changes. Muscles grow heavier, steps shorten. Hands linger longer on familiar objects. You settle closer to the fire, not because you are cold, but because evening pulls everything inward. The warmth gathers low near the hearth, and you follow it naturally. The fire no longer crackles loudly. It breathes instead, a steady rhythm that fills the quiet. Voices soften. Words become fewer, chosen carefully. There is no need to fill the space. Silence here is not empty. It is full of presence, of shared awareness, of the simple fact that everyone has made it through another day. Someone speaks briefly, a comment about the weather, a quiet observation, a reminder of something that will need doing tomorrow. Nothing urgent, nothing heavy. The conversation drifts and settles like ash. You listen more than you speak. Listening feels easier now. The effort of forming thoughts fades. The firelight flickers across faces, smoothing lines, blurring edges. Expressions grow neutral, relaxed, unguarded. The hut creaks softly, wood contracting, the roof shifting, the sound of winter pressing gently against the walls. These sounds no longer cause concern. They are familiar, comforting even, proof that the shelter holds. You adjust your position slightly. A blanket pulled closer, a shoulder leaned against another, feet drawn nearer to the warmth. Each movement is deliberate, slow, unhurried. There is no reason to rush. Evening stretches time, making each moment longer than the last. The fire dims, not because it is failing, but because it is being allowed to rest. Someone tends it carefully, nudging embers closer together, adding only what is needed. Flames rise briefly, then settle back into a low glow. Light pools near the hearth. Beyond it, the hut fades into shadow. Details disappear. The world reduces itself to essentials: warmth, closeness, quiet. This is the hour when effort ends. Tools are set aside. Work is finished. The body releases its tension piece by piece. You feel it in your shoulders first, then your neck, then your hands. The ache of the day dissolves slowly, replaced by heaviness that is not unpleasant. Tiredness spreads like warmth. Eyes linger on the fire without focus. Thoughts drift without direction. The mind no longer tries to solve problems or plan ahead. Tomorrow is far away. Tonight is enough. The air smells of smoke and wood and wool. Familiar scents that signal safety. They wrap around you, grounding you where you sit. Outside, the cold deepens, but inside, the difference between day and night blurs. The fire becomes hypnotic. Embers glow and fade. Shadows move and still. Light pulses softly against the walls. You follow its rhythm without trying. Breathing slows. Inhale, exhale. Each breath aligns itself with the quiet of the space. There is nothing left to anticipate, nothing left to hold on to. The voices fade entirely now. Silence takes their place, but it is not sudden. It grows gradually, settling over the hut like a blanket. Even small sounds soften. The shift of fabric, the slow movement of someone adjusting their seat. Everything quiets together. You become aware of your own body again. The weight of your limbs, the steady beat of your heart, the warmth collecting where you sit. The firelight flickers one last time, then steadies. This is the hour between doing and sleeping. A gentle pause, a moment suspended. You are not asleep yet, but you are no longer fully awake. The hut holds you. The fire watches quietly, and evening, patient and calm, continues to unfold, slowly, softly, carrying you closer to rest. Night does not change much here. That is the comfort of it. When the last light fades and the fire becomes the center of the world, everything settles into the same familiar pattern, as if the hut itself remembers what to do. There is no surprise in the evening, no new demands, no sudden noise that needs answering, only the slow return of routine. You begin it the same way every night. Someone checks the door, not with fear, but with habit. A hand presses the wood. A latch is tested. A draft is noticed and gently blocked with cloth, with straw, with whatever is nearby. Not because it feels dramatic, because it matters. Because the wind always tries to find its way in, and you always remind it that it does not belong here. Then the fire is watched, not stared at with worry, but observed with quiet attention. You learn its moods over time. You learn what it looks like when it is strong enough, what it looks like when it is too hungry, what it looks like when it needs only a small offering, not a heavy log that will burn too bright and waste what you cannot afford to lose. Tonight, as always, you do not rush. There is never a reason to hurry at night. The day asked for speed. The day demanded effort. The day required movement and thought and planning. But night does not. Night only asks that you stay warm and stay close and let time pass in its own slow way. You notice how the hut grows quieter in stages. First, the sounds soften. Then the movements become smaller. Then, eventually, even the smallest motions feel unnecessary. A hand reaches for a cup. A blanket is shifted. A shoulder leans against another shoulder. And then, nothing. No urgency. No need to fill the space. Because the night is long, and you have learned not to fight its length. You let it stretch. You let it slow. You let it become a wide, steady river that you simply float upon. The routines repeat. They always repeat. A small meal, if there is one. A few slow bites, a sip of something warm, if that is possible. The same wooden bowls, the same bread, the same quiet chewing. And then those bowls are set aside without ceremony, because there is no performance here, no table manners meant to impress. Only the calm understanding that eating is part of surviving, and surviving is part of living. The fire crackles softly, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to remind you that it is there. You listen to it the way you might listen to rain, not for information, not for warning, just for comfort. The sound becomes a rhythm, a steady pulse, a small heartbeat in the center of the hut. Outside, the cold continues. Outside, the night continues. But you do not chase it with your thoughts. You do not imagine every gust of wind. You do not count every hour. You do not measure how much darkness remains, because you have done that before, and you learned it does not help. So now, you simply wait, and waiting becomes peaceful. Waiting becomes a skill. You watch the fire burn down, slowly and predictably, and you understand that this is how the night goes. A bright beginning, a steady middle, a quiet ending. Someone tends the embers again, the same motion as always, a piece of wood placed carefully, a poker lifting a log slightly, a gentle nudge to bring the heat closer together. The goal is never to make the hut hot. The goal is to keep it alive, warm enough to hold you, warm enough to soften the edges of the cold, warm enough to let bodies relax. The hut breathes, wood creaks, roof beams settle. A faint sigh of wind slips around the corner and disappears, and you stay where you are. No rush, no urgency, just warmth, time, and waiting. The hours move differently now. They do not feel like steps on a path. They feel like layers, one layer of quiet settling over the next, one layer of darkness deepening into another. You become aware of how little you need. A place to sit, a place to rest, a place where the wind cannot touch your skin directly. Everything else is extra, so you stop reaching outward. You stop grasping for what you cannot control. You let the world outside be outside, and you remain inside. Close to the hearth, close to the warmth, close to the slow breathing of the people around you. Night teaches patience. It teaches you to accept repetition. The same motions, the same sounds, the same gentle rhythm. You realize that the routine is not boring. It is soothing. It is the reason you can rest at all, because the mind relaxes when it knows what comes next. And here, the night always comes the same way. The fire dims, the shadows deepen, the bodies settle, the voices disappear, even thoughts become softer. You still have them, but they drift rather than cling. A memory floats up, then fades. A worry tries to form, then dissolves. A plan for tomorrow appears, then slips away. Because tomorrow is not here. Only night. Only the steady warmth that gathers. Night settles fully now. The fire has done what it can, and the rest is left to closeness, to layers, to stillness. This is the moment the body understands without being told. Movement fades. Thought loosens its grip. The cold remains outside, pressing against wood and earth, but it no longer feels urgent. You lie down where everyone always lies. There is no separate room, no private corner, no distance between bodies. Sleep here is shared. Straw is spread thickly across the packed earth, uneven but familiar. It rustles softly as you settle, the sound gentle, almost reassuring. Wool blankets are layered one over another, heavy with use, carrying the faint warmth of days and years. Cloaks that once faced wind and snow now serve a quieter purpose, pulled close, tucked around shoulders, folded carefully around feet. Bodies arrange themselves instinctively, children between adults, shoulders touching, legs bent to make space, hands resting where warmth can be felt most easily. No one needs to speak. Everyone knows where they belong. The cold does not vanish, but it retreats. It stays at the edges, near the door, along the walls, in the shadows furthest from the fire. But here, where bodies gather, warmth collects slowly, patiently, the way it always does. Breathing begins to change. At first, it is uneven, one breath deeper than the next. A sigh, a small adjustment, but then it finds its rhythm. In, out, in, out. The sound of breathing blends together, no longer belonging to one person or another. It becomes a shared presence, like the fire once was. Soft, steady, unremarkable. You feel the weight of blankets pressing gently downward, holding you in place, not trapping, anchoring, as if the layers themselves are reminding you that you do not need to move anymore. Your shoulders sink, your hands relax, your jaw loosens. The muscles that worked all day finally understand they can stop. Outside, the wind may still move, snow may still fall, ice may still tighten its grip on the world. But inside this small space, inside this shared warmth, the night grows quieter. Thoughts slow. They drift rather than arrive. A memory surfaces, then fades before it can settle. A worry tries to form, then dissolves without effort. Plans for tomorrow soften and lose their edges. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs solving. The body takes over. It knows how to sleep in the cold. It knows how to draw warmth inward, how to conserve, how to rest without excess. You feel another body shift slightly beside you, seeking warmth without waking fully. The movement is small, careful, unconscious. A foot brushes against yours. A shoulder leans closer. A breath warms the air near your face. No apology is needed. Closeness is expected. It is survival, but it is also comfort. The fire crackles once, softly, then settles again. The sound is distant now, low and steady, like a memory rather than a presence. Embers glow faintly, just enough to paint the ceiling with shadows that barely move. The hut holds. Wood creaks gently as it cools. Straw compresses beneath weight. Blankets trap heat and let nothing escape easily. Your breathing slows further, in, out. Longer pauses between each breath. The chest rises. The chest falls. The rhythm becomes hypnotic, safe, steady, unchanging. The cold presses no closer. The night stretches, but it no longer feels long. It feels wide, soft, endless in a way that does not threaten. You're held in place by warmth and weight and familiarity. Held by routine. Held by closeness. Held by the quiet understanding that this night is like all the others, and that you have already survived it many times before. Eyes grow heavy, thoughts thin. The edges of awareness blur. Breathing slows again, in, out. And somewhere between one breath and the next, sleep begins to arrive. Not suddenly, not loudly, but gently, the way warmth always does in the cold. Slowly, quietly, and all at once. The night continues, but nothing changes. You do not need to watch it. You do not need to measure it. You do not need to think about how long it will last. You simply listen. Outside, the wind moves slowly across the land. It does not rush. It does not demand attention. It slides along the walls of the hut, testing the wood, brushing past the roof, drifting onward into the dark. Sometimes it rises slightly, then fades again, like a breath taken by the world itself. Inside, the fire answers in its own quiet way. A soft crackle, a faint shift of embers, a gentle settling of ash. The sound is small, almost delicate. It does not interrupt the silence. It becomes part of it. Firelight flickers once against the wooden walls, then steadies, as if it too is growing tired. The hut remains still. The timber holds. The earth beneath does not move. The roof stays where it has always been. Nothing gives, nothing slips, nothing needs attention. You can feel the weight of the structure around you, not as pressure, but as reassurance. Thick wood, packed soil. Layers built slowly, carefully, to last through nights like this one. The cold stays outside. It presses, but it does not enter. It waits, but it does not win. Inside, the air grows calm. Warmth lingers near the ground, near the fire, near the bodies gathered together. It moves slowly, gently, settling where it is needed most. Breathing becomes quieter. In, out. Each breath softer than the last. The sound of the wind fades into the background, no longer separate from the silence. It becomes a distant presence, something that exists without needing to be noticed. The fire lowers again, not extinguished, just resting. Embers glow faintly, a dull orange beneath grey ash. Their warmth remains, steady and patient, like a promise that does not need repeating. Your body responds. Muscles loosen further. The space behind your eyes grows dark and soft. Thoughts drift without forming words. There is nothing to follow, nothing to remember, nothing to prepare for. The hut holds steady. The night passes quietly. Stillness settles in, not suddenly, but layer by layer, the way snow settles across the land. Sound thins. Movement disappears. Time stretches into something gentle and wide. You listen, and then, without effort, you stop listening at all. The winter continues outside. The fire rests. The hut stands. And inside this quiet space, sleep deepens, calm and unbroken, carrying you effortlessly through the cold. The night does not hurry. It stretches outward, wide and patient, unfolding hour by hour without asking anything from you. Darkness fills the spaces between the beams of the hut, settles into the corners, softens the edges of everything it touches. There is no sharp beginning to it, and no clear end. It simply exists, holding the world in stillness. This is how medieval nights always were in winter, long, quiet, and uninterrupted. There is no clock to measure the hours, no bell to mark the passing of time. The night is not divided into minutes or moments. It is one continuous presence, moving slowly across the land, felt rather than counted. Inside the hut, the darkness feels familiar. The fire has burned low now, reduced to a soft glow that barely lifts the shadows from the floor. Embers rest beneath ash, holding warmth in silence. They do not flare. They do not demand attention. They simply endure. This is enough. The family rests close together, bodies arranged by habit rather than thought. Everyone knows where to lie. Everyone knows how close is close enough. There is no discussion, no adjustment beyond the small movements needed to settle more comfortably. The same positions are taken night after night until the body remembers them without instruction. Routine replaces worry. That is how the night becomes bearable. The long medieval winter night could easily feel endless. Darkness arrives early, long before exhaustion has fully taken hold. The body learns that it must rest, not because it is tired, but because there is nothing else to do. No work remains, no light remains, only waiting. And so, waiting becomes an act of trust. Trust in the walls, trust in the fire, trust in the simple routines that have already carried so many nights before this one. Outside, The world is silent beneath snow. Fields lie hidden. Paths disappear. Trees stand motionless. Branches weighed down by frost. Nothing moves quickly in winter. Nothing grows. Nothing calls out. Inside, the hut feels separate from all of it. The thick timber slows the wind. The earth beneath the floor holds what warmth it can. Straw and wool soften the cold where bodies rest. Each small choice, each layer, each habit adds up to survival. Not dramatic survival. Quiet survival. The kind that does not announce itself. The kind that happens slowly, steadily, night after night. Breathing deepens across the room. One breath overlaps another, then another. Soon, the rhythm becomes shared, though no one intends it to be. The body listens without awareness, adjusting its pace to match the calm around it. In, out, slow, even. Thoughts grow softer. They drift without shape, no longer tied to the day that ended or the morning that has not yet arrived. There's no planning, no remembering, only the gentle presence of now. The long medieval night is not meant to be filled. It is meant to be endured. But endurance does not feel heavy here. It feels simple. The mind learns that nothing is required of it. There are no decisions left to make. The work of the day has ended. The work of staying warm is already done. Now, the night can unfold on its own. The fire shifts slightly, a small sound, then silence again. No one wakes. No one moves. This is how the night passes, without interruption, without urgency. The hours stretch, but they do not press. They drift, like snow settling layer by layer across the land. At some point, the darkness deepens further. Not because anything has changed, but because awareness has softened. The mind loosens its hold on the world. Sensations fade at the edges. The body grows heavier, sinking into the straw and wool beneath it. Time becomes indistinct. The medieval winter night teaches patience without words. It does not rush you toward dawn. It does not promise comfort. It simply allows stillness to exist. And in that stillness, something gentle happens. Sleep deepens. Not suddenly, but gradually. Like warmth gathering near embers. Like frost melting at the edge of firelight. Awareness dims until it no longer clings to sound or thought. The night continues. The world remains quiet. And without effort, without decision, you rest within it. Held by routine, carried by darkness, waiting peacefully for the light that will eventually return. There is no celebration in the morning that follows a night like this. No cheers, no relief spoken aloud, no moment where anyone says, "We survived." Survival in this world is not something you announce. It is something you continue. The strength that carries medieval families through winter does not look like bravery in stories. It doesn't arrive with speeches or dramatic resolve. It appears quietly, in the form of patience. In the ability to endure without drawing attention to the fact that endurance is happening at all. This is what quiet strength looks like. It looks like waking slowly without urgency, because there is nowhere to go quickly. It looks like accepting hunger without complaint, because complaining would change nothing. It looks like tending the fire again, even when the hands are stiff, because the fire must be tended. It looks like living within limits, rather than fighting against them. In winter, strength has no sharp edges. It is rounded, softened, worn smooth by repetition. The medieval peasant does not measure resilience by how much pain can be endured in a single moment. Resilience is measured by how long one can keep going without breaking the rhythm that keeps life steady. The rhythm matters more than effort. Each day resembles the one before it. Each night follows the same pattern. Each action repeats until it becomes instinct. And in that repetition, fear loses its voice. There is something deeply calming about knowing what comes next. When life is stripped of excess choices, the mind no longer races ahead. It stays close to the present moment, focused only on what must be done now. Feed the fire, eat slowly, rest, sleep, wait. This is endurance without drama. The hut holds, the fire burns, the family stays close. No one speaks of hope, yet hope is present all the same. It exists in the quiet confidence that tomorrow will resemble today closely enough to be manageable, that the fire will light again, that the walls will still stand, that the body will wake. Patience becomes the strongest tool they have. Patience with hunger, patience with cold, patience with time itself. Winter does not respond to resistance. It does not shorten because it is hated. It does not soften because it is feared. The only way through it is to move at its pace. So the people slow down. They stop fighting the dark. They stop counting days. They stop wishing the cold away. Instead, they learn to live inside it. Quiet endurance is not passive. It is active in its own subtle way. It is the choice, made again and again, to continue small routines even when nothing feels rewarding about them. To wake, to tend, to rest, to wait. And waiting, done this way, is not empty. Waiting becomes a form of strength. The body adjusts. The mind adapts. The soul, if it can be called that, grows quieter rather than louder. This is not the endurance of heroes. It is the endurance of families, of ordinary people, of lives lived close to necessity. And because it is ordinary, it lasts. As the nights continue, something changes, not in the world, but in how the world is felt. Cold becomes familiar. Darkness becomes expected. Silence becomes companionable. Fear has no room to grow where routine fills the space. There is comfort in knowing that nothing extraordinary is required of you. No bravery, no boldness, only steadiness. The medieval winter teaches this lesson gently, though firmly, that survival is not about resisting hardship, but about arranging life so that hardship has less power. The hut does not defeat the cold, it shelters from it. The fire does not conquer winter, it creates a small circle of warmth within it. The people do not overcome the season, they endure it, quietly, patiently together. And this quiet endurance carries them forward, night after night, without needing recognition. The world outside remains cold. Snow continues to fall. Winter still holds the land. But inside the hut, life continues at a steady pace. No triumph, no despair, just persistence. And in that persistence, there is a deep, unspoken strength. One that does not demand attention, and therefore never runs out. Morning does not arrive suddenly. It seeps in. A pale, almost colourless light finds its way through the smallest gaps in the wooden hut, between the shutters, through the thin seams in the walls, along the low doorway where snow has drifted and settled overnight. The darkness loosens its hold slowly, as if winter itself is reluctant to let go. Inside, the air is still cold, but different now. Less sharp, less threatening. The fire has burned down to embers, a faint red glow hidden beneath a layer of ash. Holding on to warmth, the way the family has held on to each other through the night. Frost clings to the inner edges of the walls. It traces delicate, pale patterns along the timber where the cold pressed hardest. The packed earth floor is stiff beneath bare feet. Breath still shows faintly in the air when someone stirs. But the night has passed. No one rushes to rise. There is no sudden movement, no urgency. Morning after frost is approached carefully, respectfully. The body wakes slowly, stiff from the cold, muscles reluctant to move after hours of stillness. Children shift first, wrapped tightly in wool, faces relaxed in sleep that came only after long waiting. An adult opens their eyes and listens. The wind has softened. The storm has moved on. There is no howling at the walls now, only a muted quiet. The kind that comes after snow has settled deeply over everything. The hut stands. The roof has held. The walls are still upright. The fire, though weak, is alive. This is enough. A hand reaches toward the hearth, coaxing the embers gently, careful not to waste what little warmth remains. A small piece of wood is added, slowly, deliberately. No flame yet, just patience. Outside, the world is pale as still. Snow covers the ground in smooth, uninterrupted layers. Footprints from yesterday are gone. The land has been reset, quiet and untouched, as if the night erased everything that came before it. Morning after frost carries a particular kind of calm. It is not joy. It is not relief. It is something quieter. It is the understanding that another night has been endured. The family does not celebrate this fact. They do not mark it with words. Survival does not feel remarkable. It feels expected, because it must be. And yet, there is a softness in the air now, a gentleness. The fire begins to respond, the embers catching slowly, releasing a faint warmth that spreads just enough to ease stiff fingers and cold toes. The hut fills with a dim orange glow once more, pushing back the blue light of early morning. Outside, smoke will rise again soon. Inside, life resumes its quiet rhythm. There is bread to prepare, water to warm, clothing to adjust. Winter is not over. The cold will return tonight. Snow will fall again. But for now, there is light. For now, there is warmth. For now, there is another day. And that is enough. Life continues quietly. There is no announcement of it. No moment where winter loosens its grip or the cold steps aside. Life simply resumes, the way it always has, slowly, carefully, without ceremony. Inside the wooden hut, the family moves again in small, familiar ways. Someone rises and stretches stiff limbs. Someone else pulls a cloak tighter around their shoulders. A child sits up, blinking sleep from their eyes, adjusting to the pale light that now fills the space. No one speaks much. Words are unnecessary here. Everything that needs to be understood already is. The fire grows a little stronger, fed just enough to warm hands and bring comfort back into the room. Not too much, never too much. Wood is precious, and winter still surrounds them on all sides. The warmth stays close to the hearth, gathered low, just as it did the night before. The hut smells faintly of smoke and damp wool and earth. It is the smell of endurance, of survival measured in small daily acts. Outside, snow remains thick and unmoving. It presses against the walls, muffling sound, muting the world beyond. The cold has not gone anywhere. It lingers patiently, waiting for night to return. But inside, there is rhythm again. Hands work slowly. A bowl is lifted. A crust of bread is broken and shared. Movements are deliberate, unhurried. No energy is wasted on rushing or resisting what cannot be changed. This is how winter is lived through, not by fighting it, but by moving gently within it. The family does not speak of surviving the night. They do not mark the passage of time with pride or relief. Winter nights are not conquered. They are endured, one after another, quietly. And so, life continues. A cloak is hung back on a wooden peg. Bedding is folded and set aside near the wall. The packed earth floor is smoothed where it was disturbed. Everything returns to its place, ready for the next cycle of daylight and darkness. Winter is still present. It waits beyond the door. It waits in the pale sky. It waits in the length of the shadows that still stretch across the hut. But there is calm now, a deep, steady calm, born of routine and familiarity, of knowing what must be done and doing it without complaint. The family stays close to the fire, close to one another. Warmth is gathered, not wasted. Time moves slowly, as it always does in winter, and in that slowness, there is peace. Nothing extraordinary is required today. Nothing dramatic will happen. There will be another night, another fire to tend, another quiet sleep beneath wooden beams. Life continues, not loudly, not triumphantly, but steadily, and that is enough. As the day fades once more, the light begins to withdraw. Shadows stretch across the packed earth floor. The pale glow of morning gives way to the softer, warmer hues of firelight. Outside, snow falls again, quietly, almost gently, settling over the land in layers of silence. Inside the hut, the fire burns lower. Flames retreat into embers, glowing softly beneath ash. The warmth remains, gathered close to the ground, held within the thick wooden walls that have done their work once more. The world beyond the hut grows distant. Wind may move through the trees. Snow may fall through the dark. Cold may press against the door. But here, inside, there is shelter. The walls hold steady. The roof keeps its shape. The fire, though small, still lives. Breathing slows. Bodies settle. Thoughts drift. There is nothing left to do tonight. Nothing left to watch for. Nothing left to guard. The night can pass without you following it. Snow continues to fall outside, unnoticed. Time moves forward, quietly. The fire fades gently, ember by ember. You are safe here. The wooden walls hold warmth. The earth beneath holds stillness. The darkness does not demand your attention. You can rest now. Let the fire burn low. Let the cold stay outside. Let sleep arrive slowly, without effort. The night will pass on its own. And you do not need to watch it. Good night.